Test. Test.
We're going to call to order the City Council meeting for Monday, November 7th, 2022. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you for that. We will now go to a moment of silence in honor of former City Council member David L. Tice Sr., who served on City Council from 2004 to 2005, who passed away on October 17th, 2022. So a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Roll call, Jamie.
Jeff Delkey.
Here.
Bill LeClaire.
Here.
Darla LeClaire.
Here.
Tracy Coach.
Here.
Tim Petrie.
Here.
Jason Ring.
Here.
Scott Steckmesser.
Here.
Adam Husky.
Here.
And Bonnie Shimulunis is not here.
Okay, going on to 5, which is consideration of any council member requesting to participate in this meeting via remote location. Bonnie is not here today, but she also did not ask to participate remotely. So we will skip over that one. On to number 6, which is a public hearing. We have a public hearing for the ordinance adopting the City of Two Rivers 20-year comprehensive plan update pursuant to Wisconsin statute section 66.1001. The recommended action is a motion to waive reading and adopt the ordinance. We'll kick it off to Greg before we open up the public hearing.
Just by way of brief comment, this is a project the Plan Commission has been, working on over the last 2 years, involving both our city planner and staff from Bay Lake Regional Planning Commission. That was funded with assistance from Wisconsin's Coastal Management Program. There has been the opportunity for the public to review and comment on the plan. And in fact, at the October 24 work session, we likewise had planner from Bay Lake Regional Planning here to present a summary of the plan with council. So would be appropriate tonight, following any public input, for the council to take action adopting the ordinance.
Okay, we'll open up the public hearing. We'll have 3 calls. Anyone wishing to speak on this topic, please step up to the podium. My right, your left. State your name and address for the record. Opening up the first call. Closing the first call and opening up call number 2. No one for call number 2. We will open the third and final call. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing and looking for a motion to adopt the ordinance.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Bill, on the second. Any council discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote. Jamie.
Jeff Delkey.
Aye.
Tracy Coach.
Aye.
Bill LeClaire.
Aye.
Darla LeClaire.
Aye.
Tim Petrie. Jason Ring.
Aye.
Scott Steckmesser.
Aye.
Adam Husky.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, going to number 7, which is input from the public. Anyone wishing to address the council on something that's on this agenda or something you'd like to see on a future agenda, please step up to the podium, my right, your left, and state your name and address for the record. Opening up input from the public.
Good evening. My name is Mark Grams. I'm here representing the Two Rivers Historical Society as the president. The address is 1622 Jefferson Street. I gave each of the council members that are not members yet the quarterly newsletter for the Two Rivers Historical Society, and would encourage you to, not just you, but everybody in the room and that's in the community, to become a member. We're a board of directors that are all volunteers. Our job is to preserve, protect, and promote the history of Two Rivers. And I just want to thank you for your service to our community in your role as council members, and in our role we're hoping that we can keep the history alive. And so I don't forget, we're hoping to make more history with the Two Rivers Raiders and their football team.
Yes.
Go
yes.
Raiders. But with us all being volunteers, we do have a person that we pay to serve ice cream, and we have a person that we're paying to do archiving. But otherwise, we're relying on donations in order to keep it going, to keep the lights on at the Washington House, because we've got the Washington House and we have the Farm Museum. If you haven't been to those yet, please do. The Farm Museum's closed for the season. The Washington House is still open on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays from noon to 4 until November 23rd. And then it will be closed for the winter. So I would just encourage you to please join. It's $15 for an individual, $25 for a family, $50 for a contributor, $100 to be a sponsor. And it's really appreciated, and it's going to help. And you get this wonderful, professionally published newsletter quarterly. It's got some wonderful articles in there, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Does anybody have any questions for me while I'm up here? Yes.
Do you have any openings on your board? I heard there might be some openings for people to join the board.
Well, I'm glad you asked. As a matter of fact, we could use a couple more members.
Okay. Are you looking for like high school members? Are you looking for adults?
We're looking for anybody that's willing to serve.
Okay. Okay. So that'd be open
And-
to high
and-
school members. That'd be open to adults, retired, unretired.
We would consider anybody, of
Okay.
course. Yes.
Okay.
The newsletter has all our contact information for the board members in it.
Okay.
On the very first page, you could have our phone numbers. Feel free to contact me or any of the board members in that regard, or
Okay.
any other questions that you may have.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Any other questions?
Mark, I filled mine out for you. You can take it with you if you like.
Wonderful. You've got the large check with it too, or?
Well, I reached into my wallet and gave you all the cash I have.
Okay, well, I could always stop by the office and pick
You
up
know-
more if you
you
want to
know where to
donate
find
more.
me.
All right, thank you, and go Raiders.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mark.
That's
Anyone else wishing to address the council for input from public? All right, seeing none, we will move on to number 8, which is council communications. Letters and other communications that council members have received from citizens that they'd like to share with the rest of council. Jeff.
I have several again. Somebody called me and they were wondering when the meetings are going to be televised again on Spectrum.
I don't have an exact date. I know that a lot of the programming work has been completed. I will get an update for the next agenda, Jeff.
Thank you.
I get periodic updates from Spectrum. I can't always tell what they're talking about, but they know progress on any number of items.
Also, I got several phone calls on the leaf pickup on Between the Rivers that they were wondering why at some points they weren't getting picked up. And I told them, and I believe I was correct in saying this, that there were several or a couple of people that were injured and it was kind of slowing things up a little bit. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
Yeah, we've been down 2 staff fairly long-term at Public Works due to folks out on leave. And we're down 3 right now with the
Okay, that's what I
vacancy
thought.
in the
That's why I
foreman
passed it on
position.
to them.
I can tell you the crew worked overtime Wednesday and Thursday of last week, and they were out with front-end loaders and dump trucks on Saturday trying to catch up. So
I think there was a machine down too, was there not? When a
there may
leaf
have been for a
picker
brief
ups?
time.
Yep.
Yeah, that was reported as well. So it's not unusual that they don't make the full circuit, either the whole east side on Monday or Between the Rivers Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, south side on Friday, but they stick to those areas of town on those days and get everything done that they can. So we'll, if need be expending more overtime and making sure we get them cleaned up.
Okay, I'll pass that on.
Thank you.
Also, I got another phone call and somebody wanted to know on the Sandy Bay subdivision, the total cost of the project that the city has invested, do we make money? Do we lose money? Not including taxes. I mean, after all is said and done, at the end of the day, before a lot is sold, well, as a lot is sold.
As a lot is sold, the original pricing was intended to recoup the city's infrastructure costs, but the lots have been for a time selling at a discount, so that would be a small loss up front. Of course, like you say, as you noted, that's not counting taxes. And as soon as you start paying taxes, it's on the gain. But that would show a loss when it comes to the recent discounting anyway.
Okay,
Yep.
I'll pass that on.
Yep. I can't do an exact counting, but we could go back and produce the numbers, certainly.
Okay.
Yep.
Also, I was at the grocery store and a gentleman stopped me and asked me, we had talked about it last year, doing a 360 review. And he wanted to know if there was any progress being made in that, or if we were going to continue or going to start do that.
Specific to the city manager or agree with the
That
council?
was I mean, it was addressed, remember when we talked about it last year, doing the 360 review? I think Mark Bittner had brought it up.
Yeah, Mark and Mr. Mark, the prior Personnel and Finance Committee, at least as far as the city manager's position, had engaged not only the council, but the department heads in terms of
Right.
that. They had not
That's what they
taken it
said.
out to the community, but that was done 2 years ago. That I can tell you. Yeah. And I honestly didn't recall a discussion of 360 review last year, but
I think we
it can
discussed
come up
it.
at Personnel and Finance again, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think we discussed it as far as department heads.
Right, but it never went any farther than that, right?
No, not any further than that. Nope.
Are we going to continue?
I mean, the
trying to pursue
department
that?
heads can certainly do it within their department, but it wasn't something that came from us.
Right, well, maybe we should probably look at that at Personnel and Finance again,
Yep, we can talk. Yep,
right?
you're the chair, so you can certainly put that on the agenda if you wish, if you email Greg.
After budget time, of course.
Yeah, yes,
Please,
after budget,
Yeah,
yes,
thank you.
preferably.
Probably mid-January,
Yeah.
February, possibly. Okay, and also, I got a phone call and they wanted to thank, the businesses who participated in the trunk or treat. The only request that they had is potentially if we could find some volunteer crossing guards for next year, because there was a lot of traffic and people weren't really paying attention. And it was, at times it got a little sketchy.
I'm sorry, trunk or treat, the trick or treat on Main Street? Yeah. Actually, I was wanting to thank the police department because they did put out, crossing signs within the street to help slow traffic down. But I think also, there was an awareness put out in the community to be aware that this event is going on and with kids present to drive safer. So I was impressed at the effort that we put forth. But hearing that, more opportunities could be taken to do that, that's something we
I mean,
can
they were
look
just
at.
looking for like maybe volunteers or something on that given time, but
We actually have school crossing guards that could be utilized in that capacity. I'd be very cautious about using volunteers for crossing on a roadway, just because of all the liability there. But we have school crossing guards that I'm sure could fulfill that role.
okay, I'll pass that on. And that's it.
Okay. Anybody else? Council communications. Okay, I had a couple. I will piggyback off what Jeff said with the leaf pickup. I did receive a couple calls on that. I did reiterate to those people as well, kind of what we talked about with being short-staffed, the machine down, and understand that it is a very long process to do. I mean, they go by the roadways and they pretty much take a nice vacuum and suck those things up, get it in the truck, then they got to unleash the trailer, take them out to the Woodland Drive to dump them, and then they got to come back. So it is quite a timely process. I'm not making excuses, but it is something that does take an extraordinarily amount of time. And then obviously being short-staffed on top of it. I thought Greg did a good job in providing overtime and also providing people from Mike's Parks and Rec Department who were also on the streets, I believe on Friday, assisting DPW to get as many leaves picked up as we possibly could. So we had quite a few people on the road on Friday trying to do the best they could to get those things picked up. So bear with us. We will get them picked up from now until the snow flies. So the last thing I had was also a question on possibly moving the sign that says "Welcome to Two Rivers" on Memorial Drive. To possibly move that back further to the wayside now that we own the wayside. I did talk to Greg on that earlier as well. But there was a citizen that would like to see that moved further into Manitowoc, but on our property.
The city does own all the way to just north of the Chamber of Commerce. As I pointed out to Council President, the city limits, however, are the east side of Woodland Drive as extended across Memorial Land to the lake. So we'd be putting our welcome sign in another municipality, and I guess that's okay, assuming they'd give us a permit. There is also the matter of 2 masonry pillars and electric and everything else that's there. So not in the budget right now, but certainly if council saw it as priority, we'd address it. Be an interesting call to Mayor Nichols' office too.
Looking for a sign
Beachhead.
permit.
Yeah, here comes Turbers.
Jeff.
Back to the, leaf pickup thing, they had also asked me when I said that we were short-staffed, is it possible to bring people from other departments to help?
Well, as Adam mentioned, late in the week, last week, we did take Parks and Rec staff and their leaf vacuum. And then one Parks and Rec person and the DPW acting foreman were on a 4th rig that was out. But understand, not making excuses, in Parks and Rec, we're down 1 full-time maintenance employee right now. And, some folks had noted, well, I saw the leaf machine out in the cemetery. Well, I understand. Right now, the leaves in front of your house, whoever may call in, are your priority. On the other hand, we all know that winter comes pretty quickly around here and spring comes even faster. And then, by gosh, the cemetery's got to be pristine for Memorial Day. So things have a way of snowballing there. So we did, for Friday of last week, pull the machine out of Parks and Cemetery, but that can only be done so much, because otherwise we'll be getting complaints that the leaves are blowing out of our parks and cemetery all over the neighborhood. So doing what we can, quite honestly.
And obviously
it's-
they have a job and a responsibility of other things that they're also maintaining, including shutting down our bathrooms, getting those blown out for winter. So yeah, they got a whole list of things that they're also working on.
Kind of like snow removal, leaf fall isn't the same each year, it's different. I had an email today from a gentleman why Adams Street hasn't been cleaned up. Well, part of it has been, we've had so many barricades and the concrete work. I expect once that's all opened up this week, we'll be making a good pass down Adams Street to clean it up. So thanks to everybody for their patience, or most everybody.
And speaking of Adams Street, I want to do another shout out to the Public Works Department, because the work that they did is the only smooth part on Adams Street.
I've mentioned it before, but thank you. We got a good crew there, and their
Right.
skill sets for concrete work are second to nobody.
Right. That's my wheelhouse. And when I say that, I know what I'm talking about. So they do a very, very good job.
Okay, any other council communications? All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to 9, which is council reports from boards, commissions, or committees. Anyone have anything to report on from their respective? Darla?
For the Environmental Advisory Board, our next meeting is going to be Tuesday, November 15th. And if anybody wants to come and participate, the public is more than welcome. It starts at 5:30 and it's here in council chambers. We are working on a utility bill insert that basically is going to be about green infrastructure, gardening, the benefits of trees. I don't see that being put into a utility bill until spring. Because right now it's just in one ear and out the other. But that's going to go to our board, and we can refine it and tweak it. So hopefully we'll have it done fairly soon. The winter educational series, we're looking at recording these sessions and putting them up on as website shortcuts. And I know that we were going to look into the possibility of having them on our Spectrum channel. So we're going to look into that. And also, I just want to say, for that winter educational series, the library has been fantastic in helping us out. And I'm going to give a shout out to Terry L. and to Sally. And I'm sorry, I don't remember Sally's last name, but they really are doing a very professional, wonderful job. And I was going to say, the very first evening in that series is going to be on November 30th. And it's going to be with Tracy Salisbury, DNR, It's the importance and benefits of trees to include social, physiological, and psychological. So that'll be on the 30th. These evenings run from 6 to 7:30. So we're getting some stuff done there. And then for Main Street, I can speak to the design committee. Right now, we're waiting for some sort of a decision from the West Foundation for their grant opportunity. Jason, you said that was going to be like the middle of December. So hopefully, and I know other departments within the city they're going for the same thing. But anyway, that's going to be the middle of December. And if we're fortunate enough to receive it, it'll go a long way in our being able to start an arts program. And maybe eventually in the future it can become like an arts commission and get a little bit more serious about it. Because of some of the things that we would like to do is like the Art Walk Mural Initiative. And we'd have to start off small with that and then add to it. But if you go online and you look at Plymouth, Wisconsin, Eau Claire, and Ashland and see what they're doing with the murals in their downtowns, you'll get an idea as to what we would like to emulate. The mural at Seeds and Beans, I know that is forthcoming in spring. They would be working on that. So if you want to know what that's going to look like, if you go inside Seeds and Beans, there's a rendering. And so we'll get everything lined up in the spring for that. And then the last thing is 2023 banner art. It looks like we're going to be able to do that again this coming year. And basically there's a call out to artists who would like to participate in getting their artwork in, and it'll be put on a banner, and then it will be, the banners will be displayed along Washington Street. I'm not really sure what time of the year it's going to be because I know that the high school is going to have their grad banners up again, and so we're kind of working on a date. So a lot of stuff happening there.
Thank you, Darla. Anybody else? Jeff?
I wasn't able to make it to a Personnel and Finance Committee meeting last week, but if you can fill everybody in, what happened?
We did adopt the utilities budget for all of our utilities at that last Wednesday meeting. Almost everything went according to plan, pretty much what they presented, a couple changes that we made throughout. But yeah, that was it. Next Personnel and Finance meeting is Wednesday, 6 o'clock.
Thursday.
Is it Thursday?
Thursday this week, I believe. Yes.
It's
Is it Thursday? Okay,
Thursday.
it's Thursday.
Yep.
Thursday in City Hall.
Hopefully between this Thursday and next week,
the
Wednesday,
end.
we'll be wrapping things up at the committee level.
I hope
But there
so.
were 2 members each of the 3-member Personnel, Finance, and Utilities Committee present. And as Adam noted, as has been our practice in recent years, those committees with the department heads present reviewed all of those budgets and recommended approval of each as presented. I'll highlight it a little bit in my presentation later on, but, and Jeff, we do have copies of all of the materials that were distributed along with Jamie's draft minutes. We'll get those to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else? Okay, I'll just speak quickly to the Advisory Rec Board. We are working on a Neshota Park Master Plan, which consists of pretty much all that property where the playground is, the ball diamond, the tennis courts, parking, the beach. We started that in October. It's going to be a process here. We will meet again in December with hopefully some good updates under the direction of our Parks and Rec Director, Mike Mathis, who's doing a phenomenal job on taking charge of that. So hopefully some cool new things to come to Neshota Park in the future. And that is it for that. We'll go to the city manager's report. Greg.
Okay, thank you. First up, we do have 3 new employees to introduce tonight. We've had quite a few new faces join our city workforce in the past year, some due to retirements, some due to turnover, like a lot of employers are experiencing. I think council would agree we've been very, very fortunate to attract some talented new members of our staff in various departments. And tonight we have 3 that we're very happy to introduce to you, and they'll be coming up to shake hands, and each department head will introduce them. So first, Chief Kohlmeyer, if you'd like to introduce our new community service officer, please.
So I would like to introduce Jody Miller. Jody actually started with the city on August 22nd. With scheduling conflicts, we couldn't get her here till tonight, but thankfully we got her here. She is a full-time community service officer, and as you know, we haven't had a full-time community service officer probably since the mid to late 90s. And so we know that particularly the quality of life issues in the city of Two Rivers are a priority. And so that is one of the main duties that Jody has, is to deal with those quality of life issues. That's junk vehicles, garbage, long grass, lack of maintenance, all of those kinds of things. The other things that she does is some parking enforcement, animal control. She just recently got back from Humane Officer School. It's kind of a big deal, and it is somebody that has the expertise to be able to make judgments as far as care of animals and injuries to animals and things like that. So this is Jody. She, like I said, started on August 22nd. She was at the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Office for about 13 years. She worked in corrections. She was a jail sergeant. So she had a lot of experience and has touched her feet, probably a little bit more than touched her feet in the law enforcement realm. And for a short stint, she was at a local manufacturing company. But thankfully, she's now with us. So welcome, Jody.
Next up, our water utility director, Andrew Sukawati, to introduce our most recent hire in the position of certified water operator.
So as Greg mentioned, we got a water operator position available, and I'm introducing Bo Skanichka. He is a lifelong Two Rivers native. He most recently was working at Michaels Corporation. He has a degree from NWTC in the utility construction, as well as a nuclear technology degree from LTC, where before Michaels, he had worked at the Zion Nuclear Power Plant. Bo decided that he felt the water industry fit him best, and he went and got his DNR certifications, and we are very excited to have him on board with us.
No, not really.
We like it when folks are self-starters as far as going out and getting their licensure. That was a highlight when we were interviewing our current water utility director as well. That usually bodes pretty well. Next up, Brian Delman. Brian, to introduce our new electric meter technician. This is a new hire following a retirement at the electric utility.
Good evening,
Or
last but not
leading up to.
least, but I'm here to introduce Stephen Gretz. Stephen comes to us in the electric department from the Volrath company down in Sheboygan, where he worked there for 5 years as an industrial electrician. Stephen is a Mishcot graduate and later went on to Lakeshore Technical College. He currently holds a state journeyman electrical and journeyman industrial electrician certification. He does also plan on continuing his education with the city of Two Rivers, study and go on to get his master's degree or master's electrician certification and inspector's certification. Stephen started on October 10th, and he's currently cross-training with our existing electric meter technician. So, Stephen, you
we actually will have 2 licensed electricians on staff. That's an added bonus in this position of meter tech. So we're very happy there. Tonight also marks, I won't say the culmination, but getting close to the culmination of something that we've been working on as a community for a couple of years now. Our Central Park West 365 project, which is a very ambitious project to reinvigorate and make a year-round center of activity of what is already probably our most central, busiest public space in Two Rivers, Central Park West. Just to recap, when we embarked on this project after citizen committee, working with a very good consultant from Parkitecture, the same folks that are working on the Neshota Park Master Plan, focused their energies and their planning efforts on Central Park West. We knew it was an ambitious undertaking. Project estimated at about $1.6 million. The council made an early commitment of $500,000 toward the project, which is less than a third, a lot of money, but less than a third. We were very happy when the West Foundation stepped up with an offer of a $300,000 grant. That got us halfway there. And then the decision was made to turn to the community to raise the balance. Two Rivers has risen to the occasion in the past with projects like the Community House, Rotary Pavilion at Neshota Beach, and others, but we knew it was going to be a daunting task. And in addition to many, many donations from individuals, we've had a number of corporate contributions, naming gifts for various elements of the park. And tonight I'm very pleased to welcome back representatives of the extended Schmidt. Well, it isn't really, if it was the extended Schmidt family, we'd need the high school gym. Okay. a small intimate group from the Schmidt family with our friend Mayor Jim Schmidt as lead spokesman anyway, to give us an update and make a presentation. I don't know all of the history, but I would remind folks that it was in 1951 that the Schmidt Brothers Quartet from Two Rivers, June of 51, competed in Toledo at the International Barbershop Championships and came home crowned as world champion barbershoppers. And the history has it that several hundred people met them at the train station in Manitowoc and paraded to a big gathering and celebration at the Community House here in Two Rivers. These musical ambassadors really put our community on the map. And from 1951 to 1985, performed, and their careers included appearances on the Ed Sullivan Show, the Arthur Godfrey Show, making USO trips to entertain U.S. service personnel overseas and in Alaska. And many, many people in Two Rivers remember with great fondness the Schmidt Brothers Quartet. So we were very pleased when Mayor Schmidt and other members of the family said, we'd really like to do something to memorialize the Schmidt Brothers. It was kismet, I guess. They came in and talking about things like, well, perhaps a statue or something. And I said, you know, we've got this little project we're talking about. And part of it includes building a new stage and the place where Two Rivers for the next half century or more will come together to enjoy great music. So the rest is played out just beautifully. And with that, I'd invite Jim and whatever other representatives from the Schmidt family are here for a presentation. We will be doing a short photo op afterwards, and the floor is yours.
Come up here, Tom. Joel? We'll make this quick.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Chris? Carl? Joel?
Hey, you want to call it?
Come on, you guys all. Anybody who donated can come up. Well, good evening, Greg, City Council, the great people of Two Rivers. As you know, we were here in March 8th, as a matter of fact, and we're very interested in this project and asked for the opportunity to partner with you on this park. And to that event, we said that we would raise $100,000 through efforts of our own to name the pavilion, the stage, the music band shell
after the Schmidt brothers. And as Greg said, you know, our dad and our dads won that championship in 1951. The two people were at that park. There was 1,000 people who came to greet them when they came back from Toledo. My mother, who was 19, by the way, and Aunt Tony, who was also here. Her husband, Joe, sang with the Schmidt brothers, and my dad sang with the Schmidt brothers as well. So when we saw the opportunity to really memorialize, as Greg said, the Schmidt brothers here at this great Central Park here in Two Rivers, and the Schmidt brothers were very proud of Two Rivers. They had a very famous song called Steppin' Around, and they always talked about Two Rivers, how proud they were of this community, how proud they were of their family, their kids. And as Greg said, I really think they helped put Two Rivers on the map. And we're delighted to offer, before the naming rights, $100,000 to name that the Schmidt Brothers Stage. And we're just delighted with the response we got from the Schmidt family. As I told you, we have 103 cousins, first cousins, nieces and nephews, big family, 17 kids in the Schmidt family. And we went and talked to them and some barber shoppers and some friends. And you got a good thing going here. People like Two Rivers, they like the park, they like the project. So we are delighted tonight to present a check to you in the amount of $122,762. That was great. Thank you. It's nice to go over budget, you know. And it's again, I want to just underscore what a great thing you have going here. I've been involved in some of these projects before, and as our family, and to donate that money, people were delighted to do that for a lot of reasons. And we have, I think my brother Bill passed out a card. Our dedication is going to be July 15th, and it's going to be obviously on the stage. We had a great meeting with the new microbrewery across the street, and we're going to have a great community event. And I want my brother Bill to talk a little bit about that event. Obviously, we want you there. Greg's going to say a few words. My mother and my Aunt Tony are going to say a few words because they were part of the Schmidt brothers.
July.
I said June.
No.
She didn't want to speak tonight, so neither did I. So it's July 15th, and Bill passed out a card. So Bill, why don't you just tell them just a couple things about that, and then Tom can touch on the remaining financing.
Yeah, about 3 weeks ago, it was October 15th, we went up to Minneapolis where they have the LOL convention, all the barbershoppers from the district in there. And I handed out this card and I told them what was happening. And it just, the excitement was very, very great. Now they crowned a new LOL champion chorus and a quartet. And they both said, we're coming. So we're going to have some really cool talent here on that day. And I just can't, it got really exciting. And we've got choruses coming in and quartets from all over. So it's going to be a really, really fun a cappella day. And please bring everybody and family. It's going to be a great family event.
Awesome. Thank you for all the efforts on that. That's absolutely amazing. That's going to be a good day.
Yeah, it won't be as good as the Schmidt brothers, but it's going to be close. To my brother Tom, do you want to just give an update on the financing? I mean, we're delighted that we're at 122. And
Yeah, sure. So I drew the short straw on coordinating all the funding. And when the family, the Henry and Anna Schmidt family has a board, and it was the board that stepped up and said, we're willing to do this $100,000 donation. But then we all looked at each other and we're like, wow, that's a lot of money. So how are we going to start that? So my mom and Aunt Tony really got the ball rolling on that $100,000 fundraising. And then we reached out to family, friends, and as Jim said, there's just a ton of energy and support around this. So came up with $100,000, and then we're going to put some neat plaques on the stage, one specific to the history of the barbershop quartet, and the other is on the Henry and Anna Schmidt family, the 17 members of the family, and they were all very active in the city of Two Rivers, and
populated a lot of houses and people and everything here. So, so that was part of it too. So we got up to the $122,000 so far, and money's still out there, and we're still reaching out to barbershop connections and other people. So there could be more coming in yet, but this is where we're at as of today, right, Dave? Dave sends me an email every 2 weeks on the status of the collection. So we're really crushing it. So we're really happy to be able to do this, and it's such a fun project for our whole family to get together and do this kind of work. So thank you very much.
As Greg, if we get one, we'd like a picture maybe in front of the council, because we have a newsletter that we send out, and our relations been very, very excited about this project. I just, in closing, and next time we'll see you is at the dedication, but I just, again, I was in government for 21 years. You should feel very blessed with this community. I just hope you know what you got here. And not only, not only a great city that you have, right, that people care about, but great staff. I mean, we've enjoyed working with Greg Buckley, Mike Mathis, Blake Tyson, who's been great with Zoom meetings, and Lisa's been great, and of course, as Tom said, Mr. Buss. So, again, it takes a team to do this, and we're delighted to raise the money and present the check, but we couldn't have done it without you, and we appreciate the opportunity, and we look forward to seeing you on July 15th. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you.
We might want more photo op.
Yep. Yep.
Get one more photo. Wait, then we're gonna leave. Don't worry. We're leaving.
Is it okay?
Actually, you stand. That might be better. Wendy and Kathy.
No.
Yes.
Oh, you're all right.
I think you should. You stand back there. And if you will, your partner in crime will.
Sure.
I'm tall.
Good, you got the
Right, we're from the Citizen Committee.
You guys can stand.
Again, Kathy Harrison and Wendy Grant. Just gonna work.
Oh, man, and other section duties.
Yeah, come on. Yep. We're a city here, we're not an individual. Just leave the.
Bill, you just want to scoot over just a little.
I'm gonna wait for Tracy. Just wanna sneak here, right through there. Scott, just lock you.
Tracy, do you want to go by?
Oh,
slide that
go back.
back?
No, go back.
Okay, Bonnie, can you scoot over just a little bit?
This is as tall
All
as I
right,
get.
we all ready? Okay, big smiles. Cheese. There we go. Good. Good. All right.
Just one in here because that's what the.
Just.
Jeff is really good.
Okay. Excellent.
Very much.
We'll see. You just can head on. Yeah.
By the way, we don't know that the whole park will be done by July 15, but when the Schmidt family said, we have this big annual picnic and we want to make it a celebration of the Schmidt stage at Central Park, we know that our own crews are going to be erecting the stage. We got the bolts so far, so that's a start. And, but if any of you aren't doing anything the weekend of like the 7th and 8th of July of next year, and you got a good back and feel like rolling it, laying sod and rolling it, we may need some help, but by gosh, it's going to get done. It's going to get done. So with that, we did want to provide just a brief update on the overall project. It's been a while, but good things continue to happen. By way of update, first of all, on fundraising, toward the project goal of $800,000, as of today, donations and pledges totaling $746,000 $800,071 have been received. So that's just over 93% of the goal of $800,000. There are some grant opportunities that are still being pursued. We hope to hear about a $10,000 application very shortly. That's a November decision. We also are very interested in the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation's Vibrant Spaces Grant Program, which was just recently announced. Those applications are due January 31. We understand they can be for projects for which contracts have already been awarded as long as dollars have not yet been spent. So we think we've got a really good shot at that. And we're in good shape. On the fundraising part, I would like to note our most recent major donation from Nicolay National Bank for $7,500 that just recently received. There was also a lady that came into the clerk's office today and purchased 3 $1,000 pavers as a donation. There's about 60% of the paver space in front of the stage, those 4 fields of pavers, just over 60% is accounted for right now, but that's still, they're still giving opportunities there if you'd like to, have your family's name or your business name on a paver. Raising the money is one part. The other thing that we've been sweating it on is, oh my Lord, what is this going to cost? We've been through an environment and are still in one where there's some uncertainty. Well, got some good news on that to share as well tonight. The bid opening for project construction was held on October 26th. And this is for all of the site work and improvements, basically south of the new stage and lawn area. So I'm going to call it the southerly 60% of the park. The concrete work, the catenary lighting, the synthetic skating loop, the narrowing of West Park Street. Did I mention the pavilion restroom building and the patio area next to that? The designer's cost estimate for that was $946,600. Remember, there's a lot of other big ticket items the city's doing a direct purchase on. $204,000 for the stage. We'll be doing a direct purchase of the artificial ice, the controls for the water feature, what have you. But of the bid, the project as bid, 2 bids were received. Vinton Construction right here in Two Rivers came in about 6% below the designer's cost estimate at $899,719.30. And Koenig Construction from the Sheboygan area came in within about, I forget, $350 of the engineer's or architect's cost estimate, $946,950. 2 bids from 2 very good contractors. Bids were fairly tight, and a very good local contractor who I expect was motivated by, hopefully they'll make a buck on the project, but also some community pride, which certainly is true, we know, with Vinton. So pending confirmation of the pricing on all of the items to be direct purchased by the city, I plan to bring this contract award back to the November 21 meeting for action. We'll talk about it some more at Personnel and Finance on Thursday of this week. We came into budget season this year. I'd shared with the committee, I was requesting an allowance for an additional $100,000 in city borrowing in case we needed it to make the project happen. My best guess now is if we need that at all, the additional monies that might be needed from the city, assuming we aren't successful in getting the grant.
Vibrant Spaces.
Thank you, Vibrant. The Vibrant word just escaped me. The Vibrant Spaces grant, we're still less than $50,000 to fill the gap and get the project done right. And that's with the addition of a sound system that wasn't in the original cost estimate. And that's with the addition of sod in front of the Schmidt Brothers stage instead of seeding it, because I don't think we're going to have time to grow grass out there. But on the fundraising front, on the bid front, as far as project cost, we've got good news and every reason to believe this magnificent project everyone has worked so hard on is in fact going to happen. So stay tuned. And again, thank you to the committee, Tyson and Katie McDonald and the staff from Parkitecture in Madison. They came highly recommended. They've done very well by us, and they continue to serve the city well. I look for some really exciting ideas, as Adam mentioned earlier, coming out of the Nashotah Park plan efforts. So thank you. Happy to provide that update. Let's see now. Any questions on that? Otherwise, I will jump over to, Greg? Yes. sir.
Now, when the funding started, I was a naysayer that it was actually going to be possible to do it in this timeframe. Kudos to everybody involved. You guys did an outstanding job. Never in my wildest dreams would have I guessed you guys could have done it this quick.
Yeah, hope, and you know, I think we have every confidence we're going to hit that fundraising goal too, which is great. That's Two Rivers. That's the special community that we live in. This town
Always admit
rises
when
to
I'm
the
wrong.
occasion. Yep. Thank you, Jeff. Let's see. Now to the more mundane stuff, city budget. I wanted to provide a quick overview because we're in the home stretch as far as budget preparation. City government, we to the extent we can in a municipal sort of way, we like to run it like a business. With all funds taken into account, city government in Two Rivers is about a $43 million operation, $11 million general fund budget, about 17 million in the various utility operations. Capital projects this year totaling about $5 million, our various TIF districts and special revenue funds. So that's a responsibility as staff we take seriously, and I know that you as council, as stewards of the public's resources, take seriously. Our budget's comprised of individual budgets for various funds. Again, we have tax-supported funds, utility funds that are primarily supported by fees or user charges, special revenue funds, and capital projects funds. Looking to the 2023 budget as proposed by my office and as that's now being reviewed by the Finance Committee, when we look at the general fund budget, which pays for police, fire, public works, parks and rec, and various general government departments like finance, assessing, city manager, legal, city clerk, what I have proposed is a total operating budget next year of just over $11.1 million. That's net of a $300,000 budgeted contingency, which is not budgeted to spend, but budgeted as a safety valve that could only be spent with council authorization. But deducting that contingency, it actually is an increase of 2.9% over 2022. It's funded, we'll look at a pie chart, can't have a budget without a pie chart a little later. There's 2.25 million in tax dollars that support that general fund budget. And what we're proposing is a $19,500 increase in property tax funding for that $11.1 million budget. The library budget is also largely supported by tax levy. Proposed budget for next year, $892,817, with a recommendation that it be funded $631,287 from property taxes. That would be no change from the current year. Pardon the typo there. No property increase proposed for the library. There is a significant county funding commitment to the library with that's predicated on circulation by folks that don't live in the city but live in the outlying areas of the county. The city's debt service budget is our third bucket when it comes to spending taxpayer dollars. This budget is primarily tax funded, 2.5 out of proposed $2.8 million in spending next year. And that is 137,000 plus increase. That's to cover debt service on capital projects already approved from prior years. Last year, we had the need for a tax increase for debt service. That's the primary driver this year. Taken all together, if approved in the form presented, this would represent about a 2.79% increase in the city's share of the tax bill. Now, that's my proposed budget. It will come out with a recommendation from the Personnel and Finance Committee and ultimately be voted upon at the first meeting in December by the whole council. General fund, just some highlights. Again, a net of contingency, $11.1 million, up 2.9%. Proposed tax levy increased, I talked about. We also have increases in revenue from the water utility property tax equivalent payment, bringing that up to what is statutorily allowed. We've kept that artificially depressed as the water utility has gone through some financial struggles in recent years. We're also looking at miscellaneous transfers, fees, and charges, making up the balance of about a $350,000 lift in general fund spending. I'd point out that over 85% of the city's general fund budget is personnel costs. We're a service business, and we provide those services with highly skilled local employees. We don't ship any of our services to Mexico or China for provision. They're provided with 100% local labor. And that proposed spending covers maintaining current full-time staffing levels, upgrading one engineering technician position in Public Works. It's about 2/3 time right now from that part-time status to full-time. It provides for pay raises for our police and fire union members per the recently negotiated contracts. Each of them negotiated and council approved 2-2 splits, 2% January 1, 2% July 1. It does provide for a 3% pay raise for non-union employees, well below what the cost of living is that's hit us over the past year. But a recognition that something a little more than the 2% that's been the norm in recent years may be appropriate. It also funds the city's share of an increase in our health insurance premiums of 7.2%. Council members, especially on the committee, know when we first got our quotes for next year's insurance, if we made no changes, the coverage through our current carrier was going to go up 19%. So we are enacting some pretty significant increases in the deductibles and maximum out of pockets. I've got some concern there because it is a significant change in the benefit levels, but I think still with a very solid program where the city does pay 85% of premium on both single and family coverage. So in light of all of those upward pressures, I'd submit 2.9% lift in spending is pretty good. Generally, where does the money go? Is the money spent in that $11.1 million general fund budget? Fully 55% of it is on public safety, police, fire, inspections. And that figure north of 50% is going to be pretty typical for most cities of our size, I would say. Second category is public works, from everything from street maintenance to winter snow and ice control. General government at 11%. Health and Human Services plus Culture, Rec, and Ed are basically everything that are in Parks and Rec land, Senior Center, Cemetery, Parks, Recreation Programs, Community House, together about 14% of the budget. So other financing uses all of 6%, things like general fund transfer for retiree insurance and the budgeted contingency at $300,000. Where's the money come from? Only 27% of the general fund budget comes from property taxes or the property tax equivalent payments paid by our utilities. We're in Wisconsin, we're in Two Rivers, where for many years we've benefited from the state shared revenues program, which still provides about $3.8 million toward our annual operating budget. The good news is we get a lot of our operating income from state sources. The bad news is we get a lot of our operating income from state sources. And as was shared with the Finance Committee by our Finance Director, Dave Buss, next year we will be getting $200,000 less in shared revenues than we did 20 years ago. So while shared revenues, you go back 15 or 20 years, was in excess of 10% of state general purpose spending. Today it's well under 5%. So other state spending for health and human services, K-12 education, other things, all very important, have clearly taken priority over sharing revenues from statewide sources like the income tax and sales tax back with cities. And we try to remind our state reps of that every time they come to visit. And I know council is aware of that. What do we have for local tax? The single most unpopular tax there is, good old property taxes. So. And of course, we have restrictions there on raising property taxes that have been enacted by the legislature. But that's where the money comes from. Intergovernmental, almost half of it. Taxes, a little over a quarter. Charges for services, notably things like ambulance fees at over $700,000 in general fund revenue. Other fees for services. Interdepartmental would be charges, say, to the utilities when Public Works is doing all those concrete patches after lead lateral replacements, that sort of thing. Licenses and permits, what have you. That's where the money comes from. The library fund, I would just note again, the library budget is adopted by the appointed library board. By Wisconsin statute, the council's role is to determine the amount of tax support for the budget. And again, we're not proposing an increase there in taxes for the library. Debt service fund, we talked about, there is the need for an additional $137,000 there for debt service. I know personnel and finance will want to scrutinize that very carefully. Nobody likes tax increases. And that will also be part of the discussion as far as borrowing in 2023 for future years. We've tried to keep our borrowing at about $2 million a year, so debt service would stay more or less level. With interest rates going up, the same amount of borrowing is going to cause bigger bills, just like doing a home equity loan or buying a car. Those higher interest rates bite into things. So I know we'll be talking about paring back on some of those capital projects potentially. On the other hand, you got to keep it reinvesting in infrastructure and moving forward as a community. Adding those various increases together, if approved by the council in the form presented, that 2.79% increase would raise the tax bill on $100,000 assessed property from $1,091.50 to $1,122 or $31.50. Dave, I think I'm about 6 cents off from your calculation. I rounded somewhere. So it'd be about $31.50. And at the bottom, I just put with bullet points what the changes in the city tax rate made up of those three component parts, general fund, debt service, and library, have been in the last 4 years. In 2020 and 21, we saw very modest decreases. Last year, a plus 1.79%. This year, 2.79%. And again, nobody likes to talk about tax rate increases, but respectfully, city government isn't immune from the same forces that are driving up the bill for everybody else. Those personnel costs, and in the general fund budget, what isn't personnel are things like gas bills, electric bills, fuel for putting a fleet on the road, all going up just like they are for the households that we serve. The various utility funds, I'm just going to go through here real quickly. The electric budget as proposed for next year, operating expenses at just over $9.8 million. That's up 8.18%. Most of that, sorry to say, is at least budgeting for what are likely to be increases in the cost of purchased power that's purchased wholesale by the utility and billed through to the ratepayers. Hopefully not costs like we saw in August of this year when we had a 40% increase in what we had to charge for a demand charge due to some plant outages. But the cost of power keeps going up due to things that are pretty well beyond our control. If you net that out, the rest of the budget, the, $1.5 million or so that we spend on personnel, equipment, and maintaining the system is up 0.3%. Purchase power is driving all of the increase in the electric budget, and you can't very well not pay the electric bill because just like with a household, we don't want them turning the lights out for the whole city. The water department operating budget, just over $2.8 million, up 4.29%, mostly due to returning that property tax equivalent to a normal level. Also increased depreciation. In the utility funds, we account for depreciation. That is a non-cash factor, so it isn't something that's driving future rate increases. Wastewater, similar story, 2.7 million. It's always interesting, water and wastewater cost about the same to take water out of the lake and bring it to our homes and businesses as it does to send it back to the lake, cleaning it up on the way there. $2.77 million, that's up 10.18%. Again, though, 6.3% of that is an increase in depreciation, not a cash expense, but that's driven by the amount of capital investment we've made in the treatment plant and collection system in recent years. There's about a 2% lift in there because we're increasing by $50,000 the budget for collection system repairs when you have a sewer collapse like happened on Washington next to Walgreens 2 years ago, or like we've had elsewhere in town this year. We've been eating up the usual $50,000 budget for that, and we're increasing it to $100,000 if council approves. After that 8.3%, the remaining lift of less than 2% is mostly due to increases in chemical, utility, and personnel costs. The other utilities that the city has, stormwater utility proposed operating spending up 9.86%. That fund has built a healthy fund balance, and that's just doing more activity out there as far as reinvesting in the system. Solid waste, which pays for fall leaf collection, street sweeping, trash collection, and recycling, paid for by both sticker fees, environmental fee, and a little bit of state aid. That budget is proposed up 4.6%. That's mostly due to personnel costs, slight increase in refuse volumes, and more time and money being spent on street sweeping. Telecom is not on anybody's bills that you get at home. That's a fiber optic network maintained by the city, funded through user fees that we charge to a couple of utilities that use, excuse me, that use our fiber system that's hanging out there on the poles, $15,885, unchanged from 2022. However, out of capital reserves, it is proposed that the telecom utility would pay for replacing equipment and upgrading our Wi-Fi zones, both downtown and at the beach, out of existing reserves. So again, I didn't note it at the beginning, but I will before closing. There are no rate changes proposed for any of the utilities in 2023. Can't control what happens on the purchase power adjustment clause, but there are no rate increases proposed for 2023. We have a slug of other funds I won't go into in detail, but the various TIF districts, lot sales up at the Sandy Bay subdivision, administering the room tax through the Room Tax Commission, tree planting, urban forestry. This year, we will again, if council approves, have a separate fund for concessions run by the rec department, hoping to make that, again, a self-sustaining activity. And capital projects, there's about $5 million in the budget. Some of it's grant money, some of it's borrowed money, some of it's carryover for prior years. This is for capital equipment and infrastructure work, generally improvements with a useful life of 10 years or more that the city often borrows money for. That's that debt service budget. And in the 2023 budget, this first item is really a carryover. The money's been borrowed for a couple of years and planned, but there are funds to complete the purchase of the Hamilton property for redevelopment. We're still waiting on Thermo Fisher to get some answers from DNR before that would happen. There is street work, including planned reconstruction of Lincoln Street on the east side from 17th to 22nd. That'd be a new project. And the resurfacing of Zlatnik from 17th to Pierce, which was deferred from the current year. So that was a carryover project. Total of $1.1 million in street projects. Construction of the Central Park West project we talked about earlier. I'm guesstimating that at $1.65 million. And that, again, largely funded through donations and the West Foundation grant. Replacing one, if committee approves, one DPW dump and plow truck. The proposal is to buy two. I'm suggesting contract for two. It takes a couple of years to get them now and get them equipped, but one truck is $300,000. Replacing a police patrol unit, pretty standard. There's some other police and fire equipment as listed up there. The 2023 budget will be available for review on our city website starting this Friday. Likewise, as of Friday, print copies will be available to inspect at the finance department here at City Hall or at the library. That review is ongoing at the Personnel and Finance Committee. Next meeting this Thursday, 6 p.m. here in Chambers. There'll be another meeting the following Wednesday if needed, also 6 o'clock in Chambers. Council public hearing on the budget is Monday, November 28th, the typical work session date for council. And then to give you time to consider any public input from the hearing, the final action on the 2023 budget is planned for Monday, December 5th, at your first regular meeting in December at 6 p.m. So that's a very quick overview of the budget. Probably not as quick as some of you would have liked, but thanks for your patience on that. You'll be glad to know I have a very brief city manager's report for tonight. I think so. As brief as in the eye of the beholder. Let's see. Great weekend to watch the lake, especially Saturday. Personnel updates again. Since our last meeting, our last regular meeting, the Police and Fire Commission did approve the appointment of Assistant Chief Ben Meinert, who's been with the police department for 8 years, as our new police chief. That he will take that office in late December upon Chief Kohlmeier's retirement, and will do a great job. I'm confident. Hey, there's an election tomorrow. Did you hear about that by any chance? It's been on TV a little bit. Again, wards 1 through 5, voting location is at St. Peter the Fisherman Parish Center. Wards 6 through 8 is at the Abundant Life Church, accessible both from Roosevelt and southbound Memorial Drive. Poll hours are 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Our city clerk and deputy clerk have done an outstanding job of serving the public, and we'll thank in advance all of our election workers. It's a long day tomorrow, but they serve us well. And Jamie, any further updates on the election? Number of absentee ballots taken out and cast?
We're gonna ask. So we issued 1,545 absentee ballots. 658 of those were voted in person during the 9 days that people could do an early absentee ballot here at City Hall. We have about 70 of those still outstanding, so those do need to be returned by tomorrow night at 8 p.m. at the polling location in order to be counted.
Just over 25% of our registered voters, 6,000 or so, voted absentee or will. Yeah. Great job. There's a lot of questions out there about running of elections and election integrity. And thank you to the whole team that keeps it running smooth and straight as an arrow in this city, just like in so many other cities. Well done. Let's see, by way of update, 17th Street, the main thing over there is to finish up on the sidewalks, driveway approaches, a lot of handwork. The latest update through our city engineer's office is by 2 weeks from today, excuse me, the 21st, hope to see things wrapped up, people able to access their driveways again. We're looking good. We'll be hopefully providing monies in the budget. We're trying to boost our tree planting budget so we can get in on that street and make it look good come spring. But nice job. Personnel updates, you met the first 3 and the other one was in there as a test and I forgot to take it out. In fact, I said to Lisa today, who is this person? And is she an interpreter? Because I don't know that language. Anyway, sorry about that. Dang. The Washington Park pickleball and tennis courts, they got, oh gosh, base course down weekend before last week. And we're still waiting on the top course. Am I correct? Okay, very good. It was mighty wet out there over the weekend, but we're expecting the coring contractor to come in and core for the net support posts and what have you in advance of the top course being put on. Then it'll sit there for the winter, and the coating and marking and placement of the nets, replacement of the fence here will take place in the spring, and hopefully that $150,000 investment will be ready to play, and the hordes of pickleball players who are growing in number can enjoy it. We appreciate their patience. Leaf collection, yeah, we've been running a little bit behind. I got to say, it's not the first year we've run behind, but there have been some extenuating circumstances this year, and that continues per the usual schedule. Somebody reached out to me last week and said, I saw the big yellow truck driving through the south side. And I said, well, did it have the vacuum attached to it? No. Well, it was either coming or going from the county compost site then. Congratulations, first of all, to the Hamilton Wood Type and Printing Museum on their Ways Goose Printers Conference this past weekend. They had 150 people registered for live attendance. I'm not sure if on Saturday they really used that big tent that was outside on the lake side of the building or not. If so, it must have been kind of exciting. But they had people from all over the country and some international guests. Coming up, though, with maybe a little more local focus, there's an Ink and Drink event on Friday, November 18. You can sample some kind of libation, beer and wine. I don't know. They're a licensed entity, so they don't need special licenses anymore. And create a unique poster using vintage type. So, if you're tired of putting up all those paintings that maybe you've done at wine events, you could branch out into posters. The Two Rivers Main Street will be on Saturday of Thanksgiving weekend, November 26th, both promoting in tandem with Shoreline Credit Union as sponsor the Shop Hometown Christmas here in Two Rivers. And that is followed by the Hometown Christmas Parade, happily on the next slide, on Saturday evening. And that is at 5:30 p.m. right through Main Street, including an appearance by Santa. Anything? you'd
Yeah,
like to share on
we
that?
have 26 parade units signed up so far, including businesses, marching bands, service clubs, so and other nonprofit organizations. So if you have an organization that would like to participate in the parade, please let me know this week and we can get you added. I'd like to see us grow the parade every year and add just a few more units. So if we could get to 35 units this year, that'll show some good growth in our parade. So.
Appreciate seeing the outreach on that. It's good stuff. It usually rains on Manitowoc's parade, so here it's just cold usually. Let's see. The council does have on its agenda tonight closed session and then the opportunity as post action in open session on an agreement with a heck of a long name, a proposed tax incremental financing, property sale, cash grant, and developers performance agreement. And Jeff is still here. Bless you. Thank you. This is to assist with redeveloping part of the former Eggers Industries downtown plant site, now owned by the city. That's the really bright green grass you see on this poster, which is also a sign that's been down on the site. The city purchased this site about 3 years ago, 3.5 acres on the river. The northernmost portion has been divided off as a separate parcel and developed as a stormwater pond that helps manage stormwater from about a 50-acre area of the downtown. The city, by certified survey, created a remainder lot that's about 2.1 acres that we've advertised for development. We have a development proposal that's been discussed for some months. The developer is YBR Properties LLC, which proposes to purchase just over an acre of this 3.5 acre site, or about a little over an acre of the 2.1 acres that are left for development, to construct a new 50-unit market rate apartment building at an estimated cost of just over $13 million. YBR Properties LLC, working with CR Structures as its construction contractor, is also the developer for a couple of projects you may know in the area, and a couple of you as council members have visited very early stages over in Menasha, both the Bryn project, the block where the old Bryn Theater burned, that's being replaced now with first floor commercial and upper story residential, new construction, and Banta Village on the site of the former Banta print plant in Menasha. And that's partly adaptive reuse of the old printing building, as well as new construction with, again, market rate housing. Also, same developer and contractor involved in the Miles Kimball redevelopment project in Oshkosh, turning an old Miles Kimball building into market rate apartments. And just provided some illustrations here of those projects. The Bryn conceptual drawing and photos from this summer as elevator and stair shafts were going up and foundations are going in. And then the Banta Village project on the right. The key terms for what the council is being asked to vote on address the sale of a portion of that 2.1 acre balance of the site, probably 1 to 1.4 acres to be determined based on site plan. The agreement addresses an option for purchasing a second portion of the property by the developer. It provides for financial assistance from City TIF District number 16 to the developer. This would be funded from additional property tax revenue created by that project and captured by Tax Incremental District 16. Key components of that are an upfront grant of $900,000 from funds that would be borrowed by the city, repaid by the city with monies generated from the TIF. That would be paid out in 4 equal installments as the project progresses. One payment after site plans have been approved and closing has occurred on the parcel. The developer has shown proof of financing to the city's satisfaction. The second one when $2.5 million has been spent on the project and all the contractor released are satisfied. Third installment at $5 million has been spent and all contractor liens to that point satisfied. Final installment upon project completion and ready for occupancy. That's the upfront borrowing by the city. After that, there also is a so-called pay-as-you-go grant that would be $900,000 based on the project pro forma and what we think it will assess at. And that would be a grant to be paid annually in installments over the life of the TIF district each year after first making sure there's enough money available to pay that city debt service on the first grant. And out of available proceeds, then $900,000 would be paid over the life of the TIF with language, and I'm paraphrasing obviously, that if the TIF does not generate sufficient funding for that full pay-as-you-go grant to be paid out to the developer, well, when the TIF is over and the obligation is over, the developer would still be considered paid in full and there'd be nothing else owed by the city. On the plus side, if the project ends up generating more tax base increase than anticipated, the agreement does provide for possible incentive bonus payments totaling up to $450,000 total if the project generates TID 16 revenues exceeding what is estimated in the project plan. And that estimate right now is $145,318 annually. That possible incentive bonus payment is limited to a 10-year period. It would be 50% of those additional revenues that would apply to that, and it would be capped at $450,000. So the council will have the opportunity for one more discussion in closed session in case there are questions and things that need clarification or that we need to get back to the developer about. Finally, I would note the proposed timeline per the agreement would be for the developer plans and proof of financing to be to the city by January 1, 2023. Project start date, May 1, 2023. Project completion, December 31, excuse me, that's a typo. Tried to correct it right there. 2024. They're good. They're not that good. So that is what's on the agenda tonight. Because there is the opportunity for closed session discussion, I wanted to make it crystal clear as best I could, at least a high level review of what's in the agreement the council is going to be considering. Also would like to introduce and invite up to the mic Jeff Peterson from CR Structures, representing the development. Jeff, born and raised in Two Rivers, 1983 graduate of Washington High School. And yeah, their football team was pretty good in the early 80s too. You had some exciting time.
I think we won 3 state titles in a row.
Yeah.
So
Yep. Well,
back in the day. So Jeff Peterson is my name. Like I said, born and raised here in Two Rivers. I've been over in Appleton, Fox Valley for the last about 30 years. When I graduated high school, I went to school at Oshkosh and landed over in the Fox Valley. And we're excited to be here today. We're excited to form a partnership with the city of Two Rivers here to bring some market rate apartments down on the river. That's one of our goals, is work with cities and look for property on water, on rivers. We think that's a great area to grow and grow the city. I'm just kind of here to get questions from you guys, and I'll just be quiet. And if you have anything for me, I'll be happy to answer. Or from
Once you complete building 1, what are the odds that you do building 2?
the plan is to do phase 1, phase 2, and actually there's some thoughts on phase 3 and 4. But phase 1, first we want to do is complete that, make sure economy is where it's supposed to be, and it does fill up with 75% fills up. Once the 75% filled, we go on to the next phase right away. We anticipate that right away, but right now with the state of the economy, we're just waiting to make sure. All in our plans to do that.
Okay. So up to 4 different phases, what you're talking about, correct?
Right, we talked a little bit earlier.
Awesome.
those last two might require property beyond city owns right now, but we'll keep working on it.
Yes.
How many bedroom apartments are they gonna be?
So, excuse me?
How many bedroom apartments are they going to be?
They're mostly gonna be 2 bedrooms. There'll be some 1 bedrooms and maybe a couple 3 bedrooms, but mostly 2 bedroom, 1 bedrooms. That's all done through research. Fair Fleet Management's our research company that does the research for the area. So we make sure we're all set to go, what works in this area, as far as market rate, what the cost will be of the apartment. And be 10 units per floor, 5 floors.
So your first property is 100% residential. As you move to the additional phases, would there be first floor commercial or business on the first floor and then residential above?
Absolutely. We'll do what the city would like us to do, as well as what the market is bearing at the time. We're doing one of our projects in Menasha. We actually doing half of it, half first floors commercial, and the rest of it is all market rate apartments. One in Oshkosh, we're doing just a small one corner of it's a commercial and the rest of it's residential. So it's really what bears at the time.
Phase 3.
There's just different thoughts on, obviously, there's nice land over here that you guys have been trying to acquire over there. Some opportunities to go across the street and tie in downtown. There's lots of opportunities here. Again, being born and raised here, this one area I want to see grow obviously a lot. There's a little pride that was talked a lot about today in the area of Two Rivers.
The development site that this development agreement focuses on would immediately abut the pond parcel. So it'd be the north half or maybe a little more than half of that 2.1 acres the city owns that isn't taken up with the pond. I didn't mention, but for the public out there, the agreement also provides that the city council has to be satisfied. And we don't know the exact dimension yet. It all depends on their planning and ours over the next few months. But the intent is the city would maintain a waterfront strip along the area to be acquired by the developer for improved public access. Right now, the development agreement doesn't nail us down as to a specific level of spending. It talks about shoreline protection and public access in that area. That could be as basic as some stone riprap and a gravel walking trail. If this project, all indications are, if this project goes forward, we'll obviously be looking at every grant opportunity we can to enhance public access along that water edge, including what are the possibilities we might address something that's been in our harbor master plan and other plans with development of some transient dockage down in that area. If you're going to be a visiting boater, the harbor doesn't rock and roll nearly as much upstream of the 17th Street lift bridge as it does in the more exposed areas. We're not promising that, but if we really want to see the commercial and business development that Jason mentioned, I think bringing those people in off the water to our downtown is going to be a key element of that. And of course, council has for 2 or 3 years now had in its goals for the city development of market rate multifamily housing downtown on the waterfront. This checks a lot of boxes in that one goal.
Anybody else from council have any questions for Mr. Peterson? Thank you very much for coming tonight and for your investment or your potential investment in the city of Two Rivers. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. And that concludes, mercifully, my report for tonight.
Awesome. All right, on to 11, which is the consent agenda. Under A, we have a presentation of minutes. There are 2. We have a city council meeting of October 17th, 2022, I believe that is supposed to say, and a city council work session of October 24th, 2022. The recommended action is a motion to waive reading and adopt those minutes. Under B, minutes of meetings, there are 7. The recommended action is a motion to receive and file. C is a summary of verified bills for the month of October, totaling $2,803,322.60. Recommended action is a motion to receive and file. D is finance reports for September 2022. There are 4. The recommended action is a motion to receive and file. And lastly, E is to set a public hearing on the proposed 2023 city budget. The recommended action is a motion to set public hearing for November 28th, 2022 at 6 p.m. The recommended action for the consent agenda is a motion to approve the consent agenda with the various actions recommended. Looking for a motion on the consent agenda. Thank you, Bonnie. Do I have a second? Tracy, thank you very much. Any discussion? See none, this is an all in favor. So all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, thank you very much. Under city council formal items, we have 1. It's information on possible changes to golf cart ordinance to be considered at city council on January 16th of next year, 2023. We did get a memo in our packet. Do you want to touch on that, Greg?
The council devoted a fair amount of discussion time at the October 24 work session to the issue of golf cart operations on city streets. I think we have something like 55 or so golf carts now registered to operate in Two Rivers. Council members mentioned concerns based on either their own observations or things you've heard from citizens that had some concerns about golf cart operation. I would note the police chief noted that their department has not received any citizen complaints, at least timely, regarding violations. But maybe just some of the after the fact discussion like council has been engaged in. Out of that, my understanding, and there weren't formal actions taken, but there were a couple of shows of hands just as an indication of where the council stood. But coming out of that, the council in January was interested in two things, and I'd appreciate you either approving these or modifying them as appropriate so we can communicate out to the general public and the people that have these vehicles and would be impacted if this is indeed the intent. And that would be to at least look at, number one, prohibiting golf carts from operation on certain high traffic streets in the city, as I understood it, except to cross those streets, perhaps. This would be in addition to the current prohibition on operating golf carts on streets with speed limits of 35 miles an hour. If it's over 35 now, like Memorial Drive, no, you can't operate a golf cart there. I think that may be state statute as well, or I think it's our local ordinance anyway. But some of the streets that were mentioned as more highly trafficked, maybe arterial streets, where yes, the speed limit is under 35, but folks have witnessed conflicts between golf cart traffic and motor vehicle traffic. Examples were Forest Avenue, Lincoln Avenue, and 22nd Street. So that would be one issue to be considered by council. And then secondly would be considering a possible prohibition on unsecured rear-facing passengers in the rearmost seat of the golf cart, or maybe as a partial prohibition there, a prohibition at least on unrestrained rear-facing passengers ages 12 or under in that rearmost seat. Basically, to get your golf cart licensed, it doesn't have to have as standard equipment passenger restraints, seat belts or shoulder harnesses like you'd have in a car. So you do see people, including little kids, in those rear-facing seats, unsecured. That is not illegal under our current ordinance or anything in state law. That is a concern that I know I've heard and council members said they had heard. That's what I understood. Just feel free to use that as a jumping off point.
And just to interrupt you to make sure that everyone else knows, the prohibition on those streets that he talked about, Forest Avenue, Lincoln Avenue, and 22nd Street, would be to drive on them, not across them. So if you have to go across one of those streets to get to another street, you can certainly cross that street to get to that intersecting street. We don't want you to, what we talked about is not driving on it, not across it. Greg, you want to come out of here with some kind of direction?
Yeah, so, we'd like to communicate this to the public, and this doesn't mean the council is going to pass these things, or you couldn't go beyond what's here, but just to give people a general sense of what's being talked about.
Then we ought to do a motion and an all in favor at the end.
The chief did just mention 22nd Street may be problematic and may be inconsistent with the discussion, because the council did say like Washington Street and at least most of 22nd, if it's 4-lane, there is the ability to navigate around a slow moving vehicle in the right lane. I guess I was looking more at 22nd Street, say beyond the intersection with County O, where it's 2 lanes and you get a lot of beach traffic in the summer, or actually to the west of Washington Street, where you don't see cars parked too often, but there is parking allowed on the street, which can make it interesting. So that doesn't necessarily mean all of 22nd Street, which you kind of need to get across the river, at least in the middle of town, might be allowed. Those are meant to be for instances.
Okay, so let's get a motion so council can discuss any possible changes and we can get this sent back. So do I have a motion to adopt what's in front of us, and then we are free to make changes as needed?
Motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Second by Scott. Okay, council discussion. Anything that we want to see different on here? Added, changed, taken out?
And the thing with rear-facing seats, I said rearmost because usually it's just a regular golf cart, but sometimes you get get them that have 2 rows of seats. I don't know that there was a real concern about facing backwards on a center seat out of 3. The other thing, there are cases where there's a bar or barrier between that rear facing seat and the back of the vehicle. So there may be some qualifying discussion council wants to have there. Sorry, Tim had his hand up. I didn't mean to cut you
But
off.
Tim,
I thought we were having this brought up now so that we could publicly say that we wanted the public to like email the city or for basically just for public input. So that we can do what they want us to do and.
To go in the
yeah,
utility
we're giving
newsletter.
the city manager that opportunity to do that. We're just, he wants guidance as to, is this what we want? Do we want to change anything before he starts?
I'm
kinda getting
learning
this out
on
to
these
the
things. I
general
want to
public?
get it as right as possible or as close to what the
Yeah, just
council's
wanted
asking.
that anybody watching. would
Yep,
hear
yep, we're not
supposed
acting
to
on
do.
it. We're acting on what we want the city manager to put out to the public. Scott?
And I think it's more or less just safety, I think is what the majority of us were talking about is we just want people to be safe out there and put some guidelines in place for that.
Jeff?
I would actually, I don't even want them on the streets, but to have them on the streets, I think it should be during daylight hours only, not midnight. Dark, get them off. First of all, you're living and dying by your slow moving vehicle sign that's on there. Daylight hours, and I'd be okay with that. Also the registration fee. What is that now?
25, chief said.
Check that up.
So you got
Well,
an
you gotta
increase, a fee increase you're looking to do. And you're also talking about daylight hours only for operation.
So is that an amendment to the motion?
It would make an amendment to the motion. And again, that doesn't mean that this is what's gonna pass. This is just giving Greg the opportunity to send this all out to public so they can give us their feedback. That doesn't mean there's gonna be a motion come January that's gonna state all that stuff, because it can change and we can change it as time goes on. But we're just trying to give the public the most advanced notice and not try to change this as much on January 16th, like pull stuff out of the woodworks, so to speak, and catch people by surprise. So just stuff
Jeff's
that we're
suggestion there,
thinking.
was that an amendment to the motion that was made? Or did I miss an amendment being made?
Not yet.
Okay.
He's bringing stuff up. We're just in discussion, so we can amend that motion. Who made the motion? Jeff did. So Jeff can amend his own motion. But I think we should get the rest of the council to discuss anything else that may need to be amended first.
Just going to note now, certainly it includes a lot of time when it's dark out. The operation of golf carts right now is allowed on public streets from 5 a.m. to midnight. There's a whole lot of dark hours
Right.
then, but they aren't, it's not 24/7, but
Okay, so currently right now it's from 5 a.m. to 12 a.m.
And also, if there's no seatbelts in the back, nobody should be back there.
I think what we were just suggesting here was the council would be looking at something there. It could range from absolutely not to no kids. Again, I guess it depends. These are things you're going to be looking at. I'm not planning unless we're directed that staff would bring an ordinance back on the 16th, but rather than be kind of a bullet pointed list of topics for discussion. And hopefully after some public input and discussion that night, council would give direction on what they'd want to see brought back in a draft amendment.
Okay.
I would like to see at minimum have to have seatbelts in the back seat.
I think I know
would like to
I
see
think we
nobody
have to
back
do
there.
something in the back seats. I know I hear from people, and I know people on this council have also talked about what happens on those back seats and the fears that they have as they drive up to these golf carts that have that. And it's a true fear from people that I've spoke to and people on this council that have felt that way behind them.
Personally, I'd like to see nobody back there.
Okay, does anyone else have anything else they'd like to possibly see added to this? Okay, so then what I got is from Jeff, he'd like to see a fee increase to the year. That's a yearly fee? Or is that by? Yearly fee. I didn't know, because I think it's usually summer operation. I didn't know if it's like motorcycles where it's biannual. Okay. Okay, so that is a yearly fee. So a fee increase of your yearly fee for the golf cart operation. Also operation only during daylight, so no operation during the dark, which would change our current ordinance that states 5 AM to 12 AM, you can ride it. And no one riding in the rear seat facing backwards without seatbelts, is how I understood Jeff. So Jamie, do you have that? Okay. Now it's up to Jeff to amend his motion if he wants to include that.
I will amend my motion.
And I think Scott was the seconder on that. Yes.
I will second that.
Okay. Any further council discussion? Again, these are just bullet points that are going to go out. Sorry, go ahead.
I guess I was fine with the initial layout for suggesting what we might discuss, and these things could have been added at a further time. These things seem overly restrictive and prohibitive with the hours of operation and with the raising of fees. I don't know what the reason for raising the fees would be, simply to make it more prohibitive to own a golf cart. So I don't know. I guess I'll be voting in support of this because I want to see this discussed and I want to see the city manager properly prep people for it. But I don't know why we had to tack on such prohibitive things today.
I mean, I think that's the goal, is to get anything that the council is even thinking about, to get that out in public ahead of time before they're caught by surprise with anything that may come up out of that meeting. I think that's the general goal here. Other than Tim.
Or to ask the public.
Okay,
if,
Tim, we're going. Go ahead.
What they would like to see for lighting on golf carts, for better lighting if they're gonna be out after dark. Running around with a flashlight and.
Do you have to have lights, Chief? Do you know?
Hard to golf in the dark.
Well, I don't think we should be allowing them during the dark at all. I mean, right, so. Okay, so that, I mean, you got time to get that back to us before, obviously, January 16th.
Supposed to have.
Carla.
Why should the fee be increased? To me, it just seems kind of punitive and kind of mean-spirited because your first comment was you don't want to even see him on the road.
Everything else, why not that?
But why?
Why not? Luxury item. It's luxury taxes on vehicles, so something that really shouldn't be on the street, pay for it. Plain and simple. And it'll generate more revenue.
I really think it's mean-spirited. I think you've got it
Not
out for
mean-spirited.
people who want to drive them. I honestly do.
Well,
I know, but I just wanted a reason.
How long does it take?
Chief Minor can address that.
I was just addressing the lighting.
You want to
issue.
address the first part, if you can?
What was the first part?
How long does it take to inspect?
I'd say probably about, depending if they have their paperwork filled out, maybe half hour total time.
Then we maybe should look at a fee increase.
I believe we did actually increase the fee to be equal to that of like taxi cabs and everything else, not too many meetings ago. So we
Right,
had
but
already done that. Just to make it equal to
$25 based
everything
on
else.
what we make in the police department.
It doesn't even cover the half-hour cost.
Well, I'm saying half hour from the time they come in, get the paperwork, do all that stuff. A lot of that is on their own end. When it's all completed, it's really just paperwork that the clerks are taking in, and then we're going and inspecting their vehicle at their residence or wherever it's at, or if they come in and drop it off.
So you guys sometimes go to their homes as well?
If we get a call and we can just do that with being efficient, yeah. We may get a call where they call into dispatch and they say that they got their paperwork completed. How do they go about it? And if I'm already going to a call, say to your place, and there's somebody on Mishicot somewhere where I can stop and get that all done at once, I would do that.
Okay. You were addressing, I believe, the headlights then?
Yeah, for the lighting, I'll just read it to you. All existing manufacturer lights have to be in working order, or a minimum of one headlight and taillight installed so as not to conflict with oncoming traffic's vision if not driven during daylight hours. And all lighting must be capable of being observed from a distance of 500 feet. They also state that in fog conditions, you can't be operating if it can't be seen from 250 feet.
Yeah.
And that was statute language you were reading, or? Our ordinance, okay, I'm sorry, thank you.
Well, that helps clarify at least the
helps a
dark
lot.
things, that they can't be out there with a flashlight. That was a little concerning. At least to me it was. Okay, so we left off kind of at the fee increase. I mean, that could be something that gets looked at if we have that kind of time invested in it. If we're looking at a half-hour inspection, then paperwork that's entered in by the police clerk afterwards, we could be talking up to an hour of total time. So, I mean, it's something that we can certainly look at. It's something that's worth putting in a bullet point so people kind of have a heads up on that.
If approved, it would be, council would consider a potential fee increase to reflect the city's true cost of
Yes.
license. Yeah, not as a luxury tax perhaps, but at least to cover our cost.
You know, I'll let Jeff speak to that.
It could be a luxury tax too. We generally, I think, are supposed to keep our fees grounded in a rational cost basis.
I didn't make that motion, but that's how I would go about it, is recouping our reasonable costs. But Jeff was the motion driver, I wasn't.
I thought it was being reasonable. I'm gone.
Right,
So
but
I'm
that-
being very reasonable.
Right, but when you look,
Hey, that's yours.
when you're talking about a fee increase, you're looking to capture the costs that we have invested in it, or are you looking to go above that?
Somewhat above.
Okay. Just so we get the bullet point right.
Right. I mean, just look at a boat dock. I mean, we charge $5 a boat to go there, and there's thousands of them that launch there a year. Well, it doesn't cost us. We make more than what we get back. So why should that be any different? It's a luxury item.
Okay. So that's the bullet point for that. Is there anything else you want to discuss as to the other three bullet points? We just did the fees. The other ones would be daylight operation and addressing no seatbelts and any rear-facing riders, I guess you would say.
Just a question, like on the fees, wouldn't it be sufficient, at least for telling the public, that the council, and you each have individual views on it, I respect, the council will be looking at a possible increase in the fees?
Look, I think it's
And
best just to put it that way.
Similarly, either more regulations or an outright restriction on unsecured rear seat passengers. It just seems that covers the whole realm. Nobody should be surprised if they read that and then the end decision is nope, no rear facing passengers. But it could be more, it could be less. There's kind of a continuum there.
And we can get a recommendation on that fee back from city, right? I want you guys to come back with what you really truly feel, and it costs us to do that. And then that goes from the clerk to the PD to the officer to any costs invested into that. Come back with that fee. And if anyone on council at that time wants to raise it from there, that's on them. But I think that's a good starting point.
That's fair for any of our fees. It's going to be the typical because,
Right.
you know,
How we typically
atypical-
do everything else is how we should be
Yeah,
typically doing
you know,
this anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
Not
there are
just
variables.
grabbing a number out of the
There's
sky
people
and
that
saying,
come in
hey.
to do a 3-minute transaction. They're citizens. They have other things that come up that may be totally unrelated. But yeah, what's the typical transaction to actually do what's required?
Right.
Okay.
Anything else? Seeing none, we will do a all in favor on this. So all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, thank you very much. For information only. Got it, or you want me to do it?
Yeah, if you would, please.
We have a city council regular meeting for Monday, November 21st, 2022 at 6 PM. There will also be a city council work session meeting for Monday, November 28th at 6 PM, which will also be the public hearing on the proposed 2023 budget. And there will be no December work session meeting, but, oh yeah, so there'll be no December work session meeting, so that's the last, typically would be the last Monday. Of
Council
December.
members would prefer to have one. I mean,
No, I don't think so.
December 26th is the date, or it could be moved later that week.
Nope, I think you're
Something
perfectly
tells me-
fine.
Yeah. The other thing, not on the agenda, Adam, but I would just note, of course, Christmas is on a Sunday, New Year's is on a Sunday. Our employees will be getting, and I expect many of you in your jobs will be getting the New Year's holiday that observed that Monday, January 2. So would there be any objections? We can talk about it next month, or next week, next meeting, but I'm sure we'd probably be looking at rescheduling the first meeting in January to the 3rd, Tuesday, the 3rd.
That wouldn't hurt my feelings at all. It's my birthday on the 2nd, so I'd love it.
Mine's on the 1st. We'd all
Yeah.
sing to you, but that's all the
Yeah, I'm
mothers who
good.
want it on the 3rd.
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, we can bring it up again, but I would say if no one else has heartburn to moving that to Tuesday in January, I think that'd be a go.
Very good. Thanks.
All right, closed session. The city council reserves the right to enter into closed session per Wisconsin statute 19.851E when deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investment of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reason require a closed session. Tonight, we will review the proposed tax incremental financing property sale, cash grant, and developer's performance agreement with YBR Properties LLC regarding land sale and city TIF assistance for redevelopment project on the former Eggers Industries downtown site. We will reconvene into open session to approve that. Looking for a motion to go into closed session. Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Darla. Any council discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Tracy Coach. Aye. Bill Leclerc.
Aye.
Darla Leclerc.
Aye.
Tim Petrie. Jason Ring.
Aye.
Bonnie Shimulunis.
Aye.
Scott Steckmesser.
Aye.
Adam Husky.
Aye.
Jeff Delkey. Motion carries.
A couple minutes.